Good morning to everybody. How you doing? Hope all's well. Keep up the beautiful work. Today is Wednesday, Parashat Vayikra. It's the fourth day of the Nisi'im. We hope you're saying the Nisi'im. It's the most beautiful custom. Number one, you're learning Torah. Number two, you're learning Torah of that day, which is extra beracha, and you're fulfilling a custom that Am Yisrael did for all these years. So it's a no-brainer to do it. You don't have to say the whole pre-game show and the post-game show. You're good with only the paragraph. With that being said as well, I hope you already said Birkat Ilanot. Some people don't like to say it while it's still cold. Are you allowed to still say Birkat Ilanot if you walked by the trees and you happen to have seen them? Did you miss it? And say, you know what, I'll say it tomorrow. There are certain things that if you saw it, you're not allowed to make the beracha anymore. For example, you have to make, you make shahiyanu if you didn't see somebody that you love for 30 days. When we used to go to Rabino Grande, Alava Shalom, we used to go to Eretz Yisrael and see the rabbi. We made two berachot on Chacham Ovadia Yosef. We made Shahyanu. Does anyone get more excited in the dinya than seeing Chacham Ovadia Yosef? Imagine you get to see an angel of Hashem with your own human eyes. And we also made a beracha, which we don't make too often, and that is when you have a great Chacham who knows the whole dinya, Baruch Hashem, when you see him, you say, Asher halak chokhmato lere'av. Hashem gave the wisdom to his wise men. I'm sure you guys can we can make the beracha on you. When when you look in the mirror, you're so smart. Baruch Hashem. Some wives are very smart. The husbands can make it on the wife, because one guy told me he calls his wife Rashi. I said, how come? He says, because she has a comment on everything. How you doing? But anyway, we don't know from these things, Baruch Hashem. We only know shalom and shalom bayit and two peas in a pod action. But anyway, the trees are blooming. You're allowed to even if you saw it already, you're allowed to still make the beracha. Are you allowed to make it at night? And the answer is yes. Some Ashkenaz don't make it at night. How come? Because we know there's a mitzvah when it comes to sisit. It says uritemoto, and you shall see them. And because it's a time of seeing, that means it's a mitzvah with seeing. So daytime is a time when there's light. Nighttime, there's no light. So we learn from there that there's no wearing sisit at night. Of course, it's a whole long subject. Doesn't mean if you go to a wedding and you wear sisit during the day, don't put them on at night. If you get dressed up, of course you wear sisit. If you knew the beracha of wearing sisit every moment, people would even sleep with them and never take them off. That's how holy they are. Yishtabach shemo la'ad. But nighttime, what does it mean? Technically, there's many opinions, but one opinion is that if you have PJs that have four corners, heke pancho macarena style, and now it has four corners. Do you need to put the seat on those corners? If it's PJs, survey says no, because like we said, it's not a time of a night thingy in pajamas. Someone sleeps with a scarf. Do you have, just be careful, not recommended. Also, pajamas is something that we don't have to put tzitzit on. So now the Gemara says, "Hayotze b'Nisan v'ro'eh ilanei demilevlaveh." You see trees budding. And since it says see, do we say just like Uri Temoto by Sisit, it says daytime and not nighttime? What about the beracha on the trees? And some people say that you're not supposed to make it at night for that reason. But we hold you can make it at night, no problemo. So if you come home from work and it's and you want to make it, then you can make it at night. But like we said, some people save it for Hol Moed because there's a lot of days of Hol Moed trips this year, because usually Shabbat is in middle and it breaks up things. But over here, Shabbat is right before Passover, so you have a lot of Hol Moed. So yalla, make a trip out of it. Take the wife, take the kids, take the Manischewitz macaroons and the Edgesem, which is of course, on matzah, not on Syrian bread, and go make the beracha on the trees. God bless. A lot of people have trees with the berachot hanging on the item, and it's a beautiful thing all over. So try to make the beracha as soon as you can. Koshering items on before Passover for Passover. A question that always comes up. It is brought down that if you let's say someone has another house, do they have to check that house? Technically, the answer is yes. Also, if someone goes away, it's brought down that they should check the house before they leave without a beracha. But guess what? These halachot only apply if a person doesn't sell the homes, the hametz in their homes. But if a person has a house and they're going away, but they're selling the house, then you don't have to check the home. If they're coming back home on the holiday, then some people might go away and then he comes back for work during the week, then he should definitely check the house and tape up the closets. Make sure to use the blue tape and not the cheap blue tape. You don't want the paint peeling off, etc. But you have to do that because one of the reasons, as we always say, for the bidikah is not necessarily because you own it and I have to check that I'm not going to have hametz in my possession. Even if you don't own it, we all sell the hametz nowadays, and therefore you don't own it. So why make bidikah at all? And the answer is, as mentioned in the past, simple, because you might have a Ricola candy in your drawer at home, and now it's 3 in the morning and you can't sleep. So you want to open up iTorah or Torah Anytime or our Zoom classes, and you open your drawer and you wash your dime already. You're used to popping a Ricola in your mouth, so you just pop it in without realizing, hey, it's hametz. So the checking is not necessarily only because you own it. That candy doesn't even belong to you. It belongs to the person you sold the hametz to. However, we're afraid someone might eat the hametz, and therefore we check the house. So if someone goes to Jersey in middle of a holiday, they have to check the house and make sure it's clean. If someone comes back here, someone goes away. But like we said, if you do go away, even though it's brought down in halakha to check the house, that's only if you're not going to sell it. But if you're selling it, you do not have to check the house. When it comes to koshering a couple of items, we know number one, we have to be very careful. Hashem should protect everybody. In Rabbi Landau's shul, most people call it Landau's, but one time I was running to Minhag Gedolah, and I see my ninth grade rabbi. God bless him. Ninth grade, he was an angel. They don't make him like they used to, except for you guys. He was an angel. He made recordings and cassettes for every kid for the Gemara. This way they could get it and learn it at home. God bless. The English Gemarot back then were not like today. It was easier to read the Hebrew, the Aramaic of the Gemara, than the English in those old Sonsino Gemarot. Also the Pentateuch Chumashim, Thowith, Shalith. The kid, that's why kid opened it up. He couldn't figure out nor the Hebrew nor the English. And thank God for ArtScroll and the other companies. They make things a lot easier. Yishtabach Shemo La'ad. So I'm running to Rabbi Landau Shul, and my rabbi sees me. He says, "Where are you running?" I said, "I'm going to make Minhag Gedolah, and I'm going to Landau's." He says, "In all these years, I never corrected you on anything. And boy, in ninth grade, it's possible we needed some correcting. I mean, of course, because it could be I didn't sharpen my pencils properly. It could be I didn't iron my clothing as good as it should be. So I needed correcting." And the rabbi did not say a word, but he said, "I never said a word. But how do people call the name of a synagogue by the last name of the rabbi?" In our community, we have certain synagogues where a person, there's no such thing as a regular person, but a layman donated the knis, so they call the knis by his last name. That's okay. But when it comes to the name of the rabbi's name is Rabbi Landau. So how do they call it by the last name? So since then, the rabbi corrected me. Until today, I say we're going to we're going to Rabbi Landau Shul to go pray. So Rabbi Landau Shul has a garage, and in the old days, this time of the year, they opened up the garage, and it looked like the young Frankenstein laboratory in there. They had a pot bigger than the ones in the cartoons where they used to put the guy who was caught inside the pot with the carrots and onions. They have a huge pot that somebody could fit in, and underneath it is a massive flame, and the water is boiling 1,000 degrees. God should protect us all. And the guy has bulletproof gloves, and he has a wrench from the scary movies of back then. And people have in the house a big pot that they want to switch from chametz to Pesach. So sometimes when you have a big pot, you can't kosher it. So you bring it to this place. He takes those young Frankenstein items, the tool, and he dips it in, and he takes it out very carefully. When you do that, you koshered your pot 100%. On the other side of the garage, there are a bunch of bricks on the floor, and there's another guy with bulletproof gloves, and he has a flamethrower like you see in the movies. Heke, and they put the item that has to be burnt. People bring their grace for the barbecue or something else. As we mentioned yesterday, it goes in with fire, it comes out with fire. Goes in with water, comes out with water. And therefore, some things go in with fire. Believe it or not, the laws before Pesach for a Sephardic is more lenient than Ashkenaz, but people make a mistake. The reason why they're a little more lenient to kosher it out is because Hametz is kosher. It's only not kosher on Passover. So when you clean it before Passover, it's easy to kosher. But if someone gets a Airbnb and there's a barbecue with all kinds of wasach, and they think they want to kosher it the same way we kosher it, but for a Pesach, over there it's much different. Over there, you really need the flamethrower, I'll be Bach and the Terminator style, and just burn the whole thing until the metal turns reddish. Believe it or not, that's how much you have to burn it out. Hashem should protect us all. So when it comes to Hametz and Passover, it's a little more lenient. Ask your local rabbi for specifics, but that makes life easier. Like we said, if someone has a big pot or someone to burn, you don't want to burn it in the home. And you, Hashem shall watch us all. So you bring it to this place, but they don't have it in the garage anymore next to Rabbi Landau Shul. But I believe not too far in East 10th and Avenue M, I think they have this service of the Haggalah and the Libun. The Libun means to burn it, and the Haggalah is the boiling and the hot water. Now, there is a myth. Thank goodness I don't hear about it anymore. But in the old days, we used to hear it that women used to make a beracha, believe it or not, on Haggalah. They got it from their grandma, who got it from their grandma, who two grandmas were sitting by the fire arguing whose flag is going to go on fire. So long story short, the some grandmas maybe made up certain laws or they heard something and it stays in the family. When it comes to this beracha, Rabino Grande tells us, lo haya velo nivra. There's no such beracha, and therefore, if you know someone who does make it, we tell them don't make the beracha. Certain things do have authenticity. Could be it's not the halacha, but there is a source for it. But over here, there ain't no source, the rabbi tells us, and a woman who does have it in her family to make the beracha, mafi. We explained the other day that they used to put a rock in the boiling water in the houses. The rock is for making the water unedible, but also, and nowadays, like we said, we just throw in a little palm olive, and that takes care of all of the flavor in the water. Because we explained the other day if you have a meat fork and you want to change it to dairy, BTW, Sephardic do that, Ashkenaz do not do that. But if you want to just kosher out a fork, so now the inside absorbed in the fork is not kosher molecules. And if you put it in hot water, what if it comes out into the water and then goes back into the water? That's a problem, into the fork. So therefore, you put soap inside the water, and then once the flavor comes out, it gets killed with the soap. So what goes back into the water is into the fork is just something else. It's not anything that's not kosher. That's why we hold halachically from Maran Shulchan Aruch, even though there was no dishwasher back then, but there were definitely sinks. Can you clean meat and dairy silverware or dishes at the same time in a dishwasher? And the answer is survey says yes. How could that be? What if a guy has a piece of ziti with cheese on the plate, and then he has his leftover corned beef that he ordered from Essen Uber Eats for $90 a sandwich? How you doing? Everyone should have parnasah b'shefa and everything beautiful and eat with good health. So now he has meat and dairy in there. Could you turn it on? The answer is yes. The cascade kills the flavor of any item, and we hold you could do it together, Bezrat Hashem. So BTW before Pesach recommended to run the dishwasher once before that. A microwave is a pretty easy thing to kosher. We have to clean it out, and we put a heat-proof cup in there, fill it up with some water, throw some Palmolive in there. Someone sent Palmolive an invoice. They're getting more commercials on our chat than they have on TV in the past 20 years, right? Anyway, long story short, you throw in the dishwashing soap and you turn on the microwave, and when the whole thing steams up, that's koshering the microwave. With that being said, nothing to do with Passover. All year long, it's recommended it's necessary to cover one of the items you have. If you have meat and dairy you use in the microwave, then you cover the meat all the time. This way, if you leave them both revealed in the microwave, then there's meat and flavor absorbed in the walls and dairy. So it's a little of a problem. Some people cover both. Some people cover only meat or only dairy, one of the other. And then if they always cover it, then there's no problem. And if it is a problem, like we said, clean it out and then put the cup with water in it and let it soak up. And that's how you kosher it. Sometimes it works. There might be Nasraniye working there, and there's a microwave for both. Sometimes there's mud. Some of the microwaves in those kind of offices look like an MTA train. How you doing with all the things that are in there? But if it's a clean one and the guy put his chicken palm and his name is Guido, and you can't tell him not to put it in there, how you doing? And so what do? You clean it out and you put the cup of water, like we said, and put the soap in it and steam it up, and then you are good. Now, counters should be koshered safely as well by pouring hot water carefully on it. Some people, they get contact paper. I don't know if they still have it in the year 2025, but they cover their counters. This way, it's not a problem. Why would counters be a problem? Because let's say during the year you have a pot of soup on the counter, and thank God you have the matzah balls in there, so it's hametz, and even though it's matzah, or whatever it might be in there. You have the Goldman's noodles in there. And I think they had Goldman's noodles on Wacky Packs as a kid. But anyway, you have something hametz, you have mushroom barley soup, and it spills on the counter. So now absorbed in the counter is hametz because it was hot. Now Passover comes. The wife, God bless, she's making chicken masala, and a piece of chicken falls out of the item on the same counter, and now you put it back into the item. You don't want to just throw it out because it touched the counter. If the kids in school have a 5-second rule when it's on the floor in the park outside where people walk the Og Day, Shema Yisrael, then most definitely we don't have to throw out food on the counter. So what do? we do? We take soapy water. And you don't have to take the whole counter to Rabbi Landau Shul and boil the whole counter, because this is the rule. We say it all the time. The way it goes in is the way it comes out. Since if there's hametz on the counter, it went in with being poured. Like we said, you have the pot, it's irui kli rishon, so you kosher it with irui kli rishon. Now, if someone didn't kosher their counter, and let's say the chicken masala did fall, could you eat it on the holiday? And the rule is, be careful who you tell this to, because it can make a lot of problems out there. As it is, look what's going on out there. We don't need a little more problems. But the rule is, everyone we know cleans their counters. There's no actual food on a counter, not a crumb, not a film of food. Baruch Hashem, everything is, you could comb your hair by looking into the counters. God bless how the women are always Windexing. One time I ate spaghetti and I said it's missing something. I realized it was missing Windex flavor, because God bless, even while you're eating, they're Windexing all over the dinya. But anyway, we know, even, and like I said, be careful you tell this to. Only a chacham, someone who's learned like you guys, could get it. But if you take someone, mashallah, one of the kids, wake up early on Hol Moed, and of course, if we got a penny for every time they say there's nothing to eat, we can lend Elon Musk money to fix all his cars that were burned, Hazit. Anyway, we, Baruch Hashem, they're always starving, so they pull out a frying pan. They make the eggs now that they went down in price, Baruch Hashem, and they're making eggs in the morning. What if a kid took out a regular hametz frying pan on Passover and he cooked the egg? The rule is you're allowed to eat the egg. Why? Because we know there's a halacha on Pesach. If it's noten tam livgam, you're allowed to eat it. And this applies to many items. If you have wheat germ in your shampoo, you're allowed to have it on Passover, because it's not edible for a dog, as we mentioned in the past. All these items, Sephardic are lenient. Ashkenaz get Passover soap, Passover toothpaste, Passover this, Passover that. However, if it's not edible for a dog, for an animal, then you're allowed to use it. Which brings up another halacha, that if you have a pet, the food has to be kosher for Passover. I remember in Israel, God bless, we were there for Pesach, and they had these huge bags for the people with the big, huge German shepherds, and the bag was bigger than a person, filled with food, dog food, with a picture of a German shepherd, 3D style, and it says on top, kosher for Pesach by this and this rabbi, because yes, it does have to be kosher for Passover. People with parakeets, they change their food from the regular mix, because in the mix there's wheat kernels, mabadef, so they get millet, or even, believe it or not, if you have yourself a goldfish, or a fish named Wanda, and you want to feed the fish, some fish have food have hametz in it. So therefore, you have to make sure you get bloodworms or whatever it is, because if it's edible for an animal, then even though you don't eat it, you can't have it. However, all these things, like we said, your dog is not eating shampoo, all these Sephora items, Shema Israel. One guy's making them in China and he's selling them for $99 each. God bless. But long story short, if a person has something that's unedible, that has hametz in it, you spray your shirt with starch. If they still do that in the year 2025, even though it's wheat starch, you're allowed to use those shirts on the holiday, and you can even spray it because it's unedible. So back to our frying pan. Since the frying pan, 24 hours passed since you used it last, and it's clean, so the flavoring that's inside the pot becomes unedible because it becomes spoiled after 24 hours, and therefore the food is good. Does that mean you could use the pot initially? Absolutely not. We know there's no natlaf lechatechila. You cannot have noten tam levgam initially, only if it was done already. But we do tape up the closet safely, etc., to make sure we do not use those items. So when it comes to the, like we said, the counter, we take soap and hot water and we pour it on. This way, if it did get hametz, then it comes out the same way. A table technically does not need to be koshered because we put tablecloths, and also I don't think they bring an actual kli rishon onto the table, but people do bring soup straight to the table and serve it from there. But if you do use your table and it's revealed and we're afraid something spilled, etc., like the counter, then kosher it carefully. But otherwise, just Windex it up and spray it up, and you are good. Of course, we know the oven is koshered by cleaning it out well. Be careful, please, Hashem. Watch our nation, watch all our people. They have these sprays from Israel that clean ovens, be genin, but Hashem Yishmor, they're very dangerous for people. I remember a story where there was a girl stuck her hand into the underneath the sink with all the cleansers. She was getting a palmolive or whatever it is, and her arm just went across the tip of one of these oven cleaners, and she was in the hospital in Staten Island for burns for over a week. Shema Israel. So Hashem should protect us and keep our nation safe and everyone safe in every possible manner. Bezrat Hashem. We'll stop here for today, but we will just finish. We clean out the oven, and either you put it on self clean or you leave it on full blast for a while and then you koshered it and you're good. I hope everyone has the greatest day. Keep up the great work. Be safe. May we hear good news. Besorot Tobot, Yeshuot v'Nehamot. All the best. Bye.